Okay, hey students. I just wanted to go ahead and get on and talk about how to do the synthesis essay, which will be your final for this class. So this is going to be about why literacy is important. One of these questions here. Um, Basically what a synthesis essay is it's you relaying information that you've gathered in paper form. So I want you to think about, okay, let's say this weekend you are planning to go out with your friends or with family members, okay? And you are kind of the central source for that planning of whatever's happening. So let's say you call your sister, you call your best friend, you call your mom, right? And you ask them, oh, hey, like, when can you meet? Where do you want to go? Like, what should we do? What should we get for food? All that kind of stuff, right? And then you then relay all that information. You kind of put it together and you figure out what's going to work best, and then you put that out to the group, right? So, a synthesis essay is essentially you doing that, but you're doing it with research articles. So instead of talking to your friends and figuring things out, you're reading articles and figuring out what someone has said, and kind of combining it with what somebody said somewhere else, and trying to figure out kind of the things, the cohesions, the way they connect, the ways that like they're not going to work. Like maybe you have a friend who can't get together until 6, and so hey, this is a disagreement with this other person, or this isn't going to work with this other person who they want to start getting together at 4. So you can say, hey, that doesn't work, right? So you're in a synthesis essay. Hopefully, I'm not totally confusing you. You're acknowledging those things that don't work as well, right? So you're going to have 3 sources. I'm going to ask you to pick at least 3 sources. And in those 3 sources, I want you to objectively talk about what you learned from them. And in so doing, answer one of these 4 questions. They should be pretty geared toward that. If there's another question you want to answer that you don't see here, just shoot me an email and say, hey, could I just answer this one instead? That's fine. So yeah, but you're answering a question using research that you've gathered and tried to combine and kind of figure out how it connects. So that will be the main thing you're showing me, is that you can, talk about these sources, and you can talk about the connections you see in them. You will need a works cited page because you're using other sources, obviously. And you should understand that I've read the articles, but that your audience may not be totally familiar with it, right? I've given you sort of a very loose structure here. I really kind of hesitated to do this, but I think this is a little bit hard to get your head around. So like our other papers, you're going to want to, engage your reader and tell them what your paper is about. In your body paragraphs for this one, you're going to want to talk about the connections you see, essentially, and how you see that in your different articles. So I can't say, I'm not going to tell you what necessarily, but you could say, some people think this, and you could talk about, how technology maybe is helpful for some people. They see technology as helpful in literacy, right? And then you could talk about, but not everybody does, and you could say like how people see that it's unhelpful, right? So you want to try and figure out what those connections are for you. In an objective way, if you can, is kind of the thought. So in the conclusion, that's where you can put your own thoughts on it. So like, I've gathered this research, here's what I think, kind of thing. You're summarizing what you've learned and ending with a clear final statement. So none of that should be too crazy. There is on D2L, this is what I'm looking at. Actually, let me go back. Okay, so if you go to content in week 15, that's where you're going to find your sources. So it starts here, books are in expendable format. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actually that you could choose from. Some of these will look familiar. Literacy is the answer we watched and talked about a couple weeks ago when we were starting our rhetorical analysis unit. These last three are texts that you should have analyzed for the rhetorical analysis. You should have analyzed one of them. So you should have at least two that you have at least an understanding of, right? So you're picking one or two more from this group up here to add in with your research there. Okay, and then I wanted to show you down here, there's a synthesis essay example. So this is kind of general idea of what a synthesis essay is. They also call it a literature review. This is an upper level university course, and it is written in APA format. So while this will give you the idea of it, just know that this is not this is higher writing than I expect you to do at this point. Although if you can, that's great. But this is I expect yours to be more freshman level, and that's fine. This is also APA format where you want to write in MLA format, so those things will be different. But kind of the same idea you're going to have here. You're going to talk about the background in the introduction. Now you can have 1 or 2 paragraphs, however you want to do that. But you're introducing the topic, you're engaging your reader. They have some quotations in this first part, that's fine. And then they're talking about the different, like some different topics that are explored in their research. So they're using a lot of paraphrasing. They're talking about, in this article, this author says, so there's a location tag in the actual article title. So that's all what you'll want to do. They have page numbers. You don't need the P dot in MLA. You also don't need to put in years. That's what this 2012 is, because APA format is not concerned with dates as much. So just keep that in mind. But this is, I think, a pretty good example of just talking about the research. And then they're going to end with a conclusion and a reference page. But ours is a works cited. Anyway. And at the end, it says that there's these helpful little comments to the side. The author looks ahead explaining the importance of the topic and the information provided. So that's kind of the conclusion idea. You're going to say, hey, this is important and this is why. Okay, that's what I have. If you have questions about that, please reach out. Please also look over the resources on D2L. We have these 2 articles to look over, and that should be helpful. But I understand this is another kind of trickier one, so don't suffer in silence. Our tutor knows how to help. I know how to help. The Writing Center knows how to help. So use your resources, and I look forward to seeing what you write.